Hi everyone, welcome back to another mini ship history of Holland America Line. This will be the final in our series of talks, and it covers the conclusion of a talk that I held at the Australian National Maritime History, commemorating the history of Holland America Line, as well as the publication of the epic 5-volume book series about this historic company. And for those of you who wish to add volumes 1 and 2, which are now published, to your libraries, please check out the link below. This is the final series of talks, and we're going to look at the history of Holland America Line very briefly from the 1980s through to today. If you had watched my previous video about the 1973 Princeton Dam, you would have realized that Alaska was turning out to be a gold mine for Holland America Line, and this helped them stay into profitability throughout the 1980s. 2 more ships were built based loosely on the design of the Princeton Dam. They were much larger and were still striking, but more aesthetically pleasing. Both ships only recently went to the scrappers, and again, thanks to the terrible global pandemic. Also, they added 2 Homeline ships once that company went bankrupt in the 1980s, but by the early 1990s, while they were generating profits, they didn't have the financial resources available to rejuvenate their fleet. And this is where Carnival Cruise Corporation comes into the picture. They offered to buy the company out, and Holland America Line accepted. Carnival Corporation, up until then, had 2 requirements for their passengers. 1, they needed to have a heartbeat, and 2, they could afford the ticket to sail on the cruise. By the early 1990s, the executive branch realized that they needed to diversify their offering and they needed to explore different markets. With Holland America Line, they found an established brand identity and niche already established, and to their credit, Holland America Line has retained its identity, its livery, and its exquisite level of service right throughout, and it remains essentially an independent body. Now, after the Holland America Line had been acquired by Carnival Corporation, they initiated Project Tiffany. This was a research project through an Italian shipyard that was designed to investigate how you can marry a very fuel-efficient hull and engine design setup with the fittings and the layout of a ship that offered high quality level of service and luxury that was expected of something such as Holland America Line. And the outcome of Project Tiffany was the SClass, a series of cruise ships that initially were going to be all named after S dams, but ended up just recycling various names because these names were quite easier to pronounce, particularly for the English tongue. The flagship, however, was called the Staten Dam, and you can see this recent photo of the Staten Dam during its brief service as the Pacific Eden for P&O Cruises Australia. Now, before we go into the history of this ship, we'll just wind back briefly and just give you an update on what happened with the S-Class. Clearly, this design was an absolute hit and led to a series of follow-on designs, which would then go on to lead to the R-Class that were introduced during 1999 and 2000. In terms of the flagship of the S-Class, our dear Staten Dam up here, it went on to have a successful career between 2015 and 2018. It served as the Pacific Eden for P&O Cruises Australia before being sold to CMV Cruises, where it became their Vasco da Gama. Unfortunately, CMV folded thanks to the global pandemic. This ship managed to find another operator, Nico Cruises out of Germany, and under the name of Vasco da Gama, this ship continues to sail with us today. At the turn of the century, 4 new ships called the RClass were introduced for Holland America Line. They were divided into two subsets. The first two ships of the R-class would have the traditional smokestack, whereas the next two would have split uptakes, as a reference to the 1958 Rotterdam. My favorite of the R-class, however, is the Volendam, which you can see up here. It visited Australia many times in the 2000s, and I was fortunate enough to capture various images of it during its cruise departures. Volendam is currently the oldest ship under Holland America Line fleet, but it is not serving with them at the moment. It is currently doing refugee work and is an accommodation ship for displaced Ukrainians. As the year 2000 dawned, the second subset of the R-class arrived, and as I just mentioned, they have the split uptakes, although roughly the same layout. And as an illustrated example, we have here the Amsterdam. This ship no longer serves with Holland America Line, and it is now sailing as the Bullet in Europe. The company has gone from strength to strength. They introduced the much larger Vista class in the later 2000s. These 82,000-ton ships are a big step up, and during 2012-2013, Holland America Line established an office here in Australia, and during the summer cruise season had one of their ships positioned during the summer, which was the Rotterdam, and you can see it here departing Sydney. This was such a success that every summer since then we have had a Holland America Line ship not only based during the summer, but also those Holland America liners visiting Sydney as part of their round-the-world cruises. Naturally, the pandemic changed many things, but also in the year 2021, their new flagship, the 7th Rotterdam, was introduced. This ship is the pinnacle of the Pinnacle Class, which you can see represents the latest advances in design ideas. But just have a look at those interiors. These interiors are beautiful and elegant, and what is interesting is that this ship can carry over 4,000 passengers in absolute comfort, whereas the 1908 Rotterdam, for example, set a record for 2,900 plus passengers. If this cruise season was anything to go by, cruising has rebounded with a vengeance, and everyone is doing whatever they can to put the torches of the pandemic behind them and sail onwards and forwards. As you can see from these photos of the Rotterdam, Holland America Line is sailing towards a brighter future. Prospects look fantastic. Everyone is putting the horrors of the pandemic behind them, and we can only look forward now. And my sincere hope is that we can look forward to another 150 fascinating years of Holland America Line and all the fascinating ships that are yet to come. I also hope that in 150 years' time there will be somebody there to write another book, hopefully another 10 volumes to cover the history of this fascinating company. So there you have it, the adaptation of my talk across the 150-year history of Holland America Line. As I've noted before, if you are enjoying this format and you wish to learn more about some ocean liners, particularly those that aren't as well known, let me know in the comments below. I will be happy to generate one for you. So, happy reading, enjoy, and if you haven't seen them already, please go back and check out all the other mini histories of Holland America Line. Thank you and enjoy.